Hey Algebra 2, this is Mr. Szybisty, and in C2, this video, we're going to talk about radicals. And what a radical is something like this. Here we have the square root of 2 or the square root of 3. It involves the square root sign. So when we talk about roots or radicals, that's what we're referring to. So let's get into example 1 where it looks like we're multiplying two different radical expressions. We're going to multiply 5 plus the square root of 2 times the square root of 3 plus the square root of 2. Now, a real quick note, in order to be able to add two radicals together, they have to have the same number inside. So I can't add the square root of 3 and the square root of 2 because they don't have the same number inside. If they were both square root of 2's, that would be a little bit different. So when we multiply, we're going to make a box just like we did with the polynomials. So I'm going to draw out my box, and I'm going to make sure that every part gets their own row or their own column. So just like that. Now I can start going through and multiplying. 5 times the square root of 3 is 5 root 3. 5 times the square root of 2 is 5 root 2. The square root of 2 times the square root of 3 is the square root of 6. And the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4. And when I'm talking here about the square root of 4, instead of saying square root of 4, what I can really do is call that 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. So the last thing we would need to do is just write everything out. Everything that we have here is going to get written out here at the bottom. So 5 root 3 plus 5 root 2 plus the square root of 6 plus 2, and that is going to be our answer. So if we have to multiply two radicals expressions like we have here, we can make a box, and then we write out our answer. And notice I can't combine any of the radicals. This is the square root of 3, this is the square root of 2, this is the square root of 6. It's kind of like adding x's together. If they're not the same, you can't do it. Let's see another one. Again, here we're multiplying radical expressions, which means that I'm going to make a box. And along the outside of that box, I write 3 and negative square root of 3 here, 2 and square root of 5. So now it's time for me to multiply on the inside. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times the square root of 5 is 3 root 5. Negative root 3 times 2 is negative 2 root 3. And square root of 3 times square root of 5, negative square root 15. So now I write everything out. 3 plus square root of 5 plus negative 2 square root of 3 plus negative square root 15. We would probably rewrite this, instead of writing plus a negative, we would probably write 6 plus 3 root 5 minus 2 root 3 minus the square root of 15. But to be honest, both of these would be accepted. But this would probably be the way that a mathematician would write their answer. Now it's time for a U-try. In this U-try, multiply 7 plus the square root of 2 times 2 minus the square root of 2. Make the box, see if you can get the right answer. Give it a pause. In this example, a number of things could be combined. If they both have a square root of 2, you can combine them together, or if they're both a number, then you could add them together. The final answer would be 12 minus 5 root 2. Make sure that you try this try to get the right answer, and if you can't get the right answer, make sure you bring a question to class tomorrow. Let's move on to simplifying. Another major thing that we need to be able to do in Algebra 2 is to simplify a square root. Now, there are a lot of different ways out there in which you could simplify square roots, and I'm going to show you one of them. And the reason why I'm showing you this technique is because it makes it a little bit easier when we have to simplify other square roots and other higher roots later on in the year. So it starts by making what we call a factor tree. So we have the number 24, and I know that the 24, I'm going to break it up into two numbers that I know multiply to give me 24. Like, for example, 6 times 4. And 6 is 3 times 2. And 4 is 2 times 2. And I can't go any further with that. With a square root, what I need to be able to do is come up with groups of 2. Let's write that down here at the bottom. Groups of 2. And so they have to be the same. Like, for example, here's a group of 2. Those two 2's. The rules are going to say that for every group of 2, you are allowed to pull one of those to the outside of the square root. So if I have my square root here, the rules are telling me because I was able to find a group of 2, in this case 2 2's, I'm allowed to pull one of them to the outside. On the inside will be everything that's left over. And these will all be multiplied. So the answer will be 2 root 6. That's a simplified version of the square root of 24. Let's see another example of it. Get this one in your notebook, and then let's see if you can start to figure out the pattern, figure out what we're doing. Here I want to simplify the square root of 72. So I know that 72, I'll write that over here, and then I'll break this up. I know, using my calculator, that 72 is actually 18 times 4. I started dividing numbers into 72, and when I did 72 divided by 4, I got 18. I know that 4 is 2 and 2. I know that 18 is 3 and 6. And I know that 6 is 3 and 2. Now it's time to look for groups of 2. Here's one group of 2 right here. That's a group of 3's, which means I'll be able to, once I write my square root, I'll pull a 3 to the outside. There's another group of 2's right here, 2 2's. I can also pull that to the outside. Remember, all these are going to be multiplied together. There's only one left over, and it's right here. It's that 2. That 2 stays on the inside. 3 times 2 on the outside is 6. So the answer is going to be 6 root 2. The square root of 72 can be simplified to 6 root 2. Let's see one more simplify, and then we'll go and try a U-try. Here we have the square root of 90. So again, I'm going to make my factor tree 90. I know that 90 is 10 times 9. 10 is 5 times 2. And 9 is 3 times 3. So now I need to figure out what I can put outside, what has a group of 2, and what I can put inside. Looking for a group of 2, I found these 3's right here. There's a group of 2. So I know I can pull a 3 on the outside. There are no other groups of 2's. Here are the leftovers, a 5 and a 2, and we're always multiplying them here. So we're left with 3 square root of 10, and that's our final answer. These are the exact same. Square root of 90 means the same thing as 3 root 10, only this one down here we say is simplified. Now let's try a U-try. Here we have a U-try where we're doing the square root of 63. So, on your paper, give this one a shot, make your factor tree, look for groups of 2, and then any groups of 2 you can bring to the outside. We're allowed to pull one of them to the outside. See if you can get it. Hit pause. The correct answer that we should have gotten was 3 root 7. Go through your work, see if you got the right answer, and if you didn't, give it another shot, see if you figure out what you did wrong, and then make sure you come to class tomorrow with questions. Great job, Algebra 2. Can't wait to talk to you about C3 next that has to do with imaginary numbers.